Ego is the Enemy is a book about success and failure. Reflecting on personal experiences and drawing on a wide array of historical stories, philosophy, and modern examples, author Ryan Holiday sets out to prove that true success comes from the ability to master your ego. Success, Holiday argues, comes despite our egos, not because of them. For success to last, it can't be built on a foundation of this pervasive ego. His book is structured into 3 sections: aspire, success, and failure. Aspire, success, and failure. And in each section, Holiday provides examples of ways that our egos can hold us back from producing our best work and the ways in which we can master them to achieve our true potential. His aim in the book is essentially to help us suppress our ego early on before bad habits kick in and become inescapable while aspiring for success. Also, the book is meant to help replace the temptations of ego with humility and discipline when success is achieved, and then to cultivate the strength and fortitude to survive through failure. In this way, people that want to be successful must have a mastery over their ego at every step of the process towards achievement. In short, Ego is the Enemy teaches us to be humble in our aspirations, gracious in our success, resilient in our failure. By mastering our egos, we can master our impulses and our drive to begin to produce our best work, free from narcissism, contempt for others, and unfounded paranoia. Now, here's what you'll learn about specifically in this book summary. First, we'll talk about aspiring for greatness. The journey to success is fraught with challenges, so keep your ego in check by understanding that inflated self-image and boastful talk isn't going to get you anywhere, while the only route to success actually comes from hard work and humility. Then we'll dive into achieving success. Once you become successful, the real work begins. Personal diligence and humility is incredibly important to maintaining your success. So never assume that you know the way things should be done, and take the time to learn from every single opportunity that presents itself. Proper management of yourself will lead to successful management of your business or institution or even your personal life. And then finally, we'll talk about recovering from failure. Failure is an inevitable part of living a full, rich life. Make the most of this stage by choosing to use your failures as an opportunity to learn and to better yourself. And draw a hard line about how far you're willing to go in compromising your morals, your principles, and your values on your quest for success. Here's a few crucial quotes before we dive into the first big idea. Quote, "Updating your appraisal of your talents in a downward direction is one of the most difficult things to do in life, but it is almost always a component of mastery. The pretense of knowledge is our most dangerous vice because it prevents us from getting any better." Quote, "Greatness comes from our humble beginnings. It comes from grunt work. It means you are the least important person in the room until you change that with results." Quote, "Ego cannot see both sides of the issue. It cannot get better because it only sees the validation. Remember, vain men never hear anything but praise. It can only see what's going well, not what isn't." Part 1. Aspiring for greatness. Big idea number 1. Your ego can be a great enemy. Talent is often necessary for success, but you know what? it isn't the most important component. Though it is certainly part of the equation, experiences that produce growth and the ways you choose to use your talents are even more important. Far more rare than natural talent is humility and diligence and self-awareness. The successes of the great war general, William Tecumseh Sherman, can be attributed to his deep ties with reality and humility and self-awareness. Though he was incredibly talented and praised for all of his achievements as a general, Sherman actually turned down the trappings of fame by refusing promotion after promotion after promotion that he did not feel he was adequately prepared for yet. Instead, Sherman stayed in positions that he knew he could succeed in and knew that there was still growth left to be done within, rather than climbing as high as he possibly could at every opportunity that was offered to him. And because of this humility, and because of this understanding of his own true talents, Sherman maintained his military prowess as his comrades became corrupted by success and power. How rare is it to refuse a promotion under the logic that we're better equipped for our current job? Yet this is exactly what Sherman did time and time again, and it's a crucial reason for his success as a general. From Sherman's example, we can learn that ego is the enemy to our journey toward success, and that mastering our egos will make us stronger and better suited for the job that we have. Big idea number 2. Talk alone will get you nowhere. Quote, "A man's best treasure is a thrifty tongue." Unquote. In the creative field, talk and hype can often replace action. It's common for writers, for example, to spend years, quote-unquote, doing research and have little to show for their efforts at the end. Many times, a large task can seem overwhelming, so people focus on inconsequential pieces, fruitlessly fine-tuning them and consoling themselves that they are making progress because they're working on the project. Others talk energetically to their friends about their plans and later feel that their 2 hours of talk actually move them closer to accomplishing their goal. But sadly, this just is not reflective of reality. While talk is easy, it actually depletes us of our energies for productivity because it demands the same resources as action does: our time, our mental stamina, and our willpower. Endlessly mulling over projects without putting them into action gives our ego the satisfaction of achievement without anything being accomplished in the first place. Talking about a project gives us some of the satisfaction that actually doing it can, but it accomplishes nothing, absolutely nothing. But in contrast, silence is the respite of the confident and strong. All talk is too costly for difficult projects because it prevents us from taking action. And that is what really counts. Big idea number 3. Get out of your own head. Living clearly and presently takes real courage. Don't live in the haze of the abstract. Live with the tangible and real, even if, especially if, it's uncomfortable. The squandering of talent from brilliant people that never manage to get their ideas out of their own heads and into the real world is both incalculable and tragic. J.D. Salinger has written brilliant novels with compelling characters, yet many of his most memorable characters have one trait in common. They are not able to get out of their own heads. For example, Holden Caulfield, a character in one of Salinger's novels, lives the life of a disillusioned teen, retreating from the world as he fears it's out to get him. In many ways, this novel is autobiographical of Salinger, a reclusive man that seemed to wait until his 40s to truly conquer his self-obsession enough to produce his novels. His great works only actually came after this slow process of maturity. If Salinger had interacted with the world sooner, how much greater could his body of work have become? We lose precious time and precious energy by turning inwards and feasting on our own thoughts, replacing action with unrealized daydreams. The world tells us to quote-unquote brand ourselves and tell stories of our accomplishments to make them tangible. Yet this process interrupts our progress towards betterment because it focuses on what has been rather than what will soon be. Truly successful people have tamed the flights of fancy their ego takes and ignore the temptation to think of their achievements, for past success means nothing when facing a new challenge. Big idea number 4. Work, work, work. Quote, the distinction between a professional and a dilettante occurs when you accept that having an idea is not enough, that you must work until you are able to recreate your experience effectively. Unquote. The natural talent to achieve greatness will get you nothing if you don't apply it. An artist must also be a craftsman for their work to exist outside their mind. Whether it takes 10,000 or 20,000 hours to achieve mastery matters far less than the fact that the work still continues after achievement. Our ego bristles at this idea, wanting our time spent dreaming, planning, and talking about our ideas to count towards success. And it will, in a small way, but true success must come from constant, dedicated work and refinement. Real progress comes from the unglamorous process of struggling with problems and refining solutions, endlessly tweaking. True success demands investment in work that goes far beyond status and monetary gain. A love of the process and the hard effort of working for something bigger than oneself is absolutely necessary for success because the work won't go away, even when you achieve it. Part 2. Achieving greatness. Big idea number 5. Always stay a student. Quote, it is not enough only to be a student at the beginning. It is a position that one has to assume for life. Learn from everyone and everything. Unquote. The modern canon only exists because of Genghis Khan's brilliant skills of cultural appropriation and openness to learning about the cultures that he conquered. Made from the resulting fusion of Chinese gunpowder, Arab flamethrowers, and European metalwork, the canon is actually symbolic of the technique that the Mongol Empire used to transform the world for centuries. The Mongols created little lasting culture of their own, but they were enormously successful in implementing the best parts of each culture that they conquered and making themselves almost invincible in battle. Never ones to let their pride get in the way of their achievements, the Mongols were perpetual students that never assumed they knew everything they needed to know. There was always more to learn, always more to cultivate, always more room for growth. Too often, we reject the example of the Mongols and get comfortable with our skills and our knowledge. And that's a strategy that just doesn't work in the long run. Though our ego may be telling us that we are at the top, those that want to truly be successful have got to learn from every new experience and work to adapt their strategies, be flexible with their strategies, and tweak and learn and grow some more. Businesses that can't adapt to market changes are inevitably going to go under. And people that forget to approach life with inquisitiveness and curiosity and flexibility will find their knowledge fragile. Strive to be a lifelong learner and to take in lessons from your successes as well as from your failures. It's a great risk to assume the position of security with your talents, because true understanding and true mastery is a fluid and continual process. Big idea number 6. Learn to manage yourself. Quote, "It is not enough to have great qualities. We should also have the management of them." Unquote. Great politicians and business leaders understand that managing an institution properly requires proper management of oneself. Eisenhower was a successful president because he had a talent for delegating tasks and only doing the work that was most essential for him. While he handled the most important task, he ensured that his staff handled the second most important tasks, allowing him the breathing room to do his job to the best of his abilities. Many businesses have fallen apart for lack of a leader with this talent of order and delegation. Now, although small companies can compensate for disorganization with hard work and a little bit of luck, that's not going to work for large ones. Though it may be fun to be involved with every little tiny matter in a company, a lack of proper delegation will cause punishing inefficiencies and will be a waste of talent. Responsibility over a company or institution requires a readjustment towards increased clarity and purpose. Setting the top-level goals for the organization and your life has got to be a priority. And then after that comes the act of enforcing and observing them. Long-lasting success will not come any other way. So, whether you have a business of your own or work for an organization, do this. Set a top-level goal for yourself and or for your team if you've got one. And then set some goals for your personal life as well. Start with a top-level goal. And then create a plan for both two broad categories. How are you going to achieve your top-level business goal? And how are you going to achieve your top-level personal goal? Part 3. Falling from greatness. Big idea number 7. Alive time or dead time. Quote, "The dead time was when we were controlled by ego. Now we can live." Unquote. In his 20s, Malcolm X spent 7 years in prison. But rather than languish away feeling sorry for himself, Malcolm spent his time teaching himself how to read, and then he devoured every book that he could get his hands on. He left prison a brand new man, educated and able to handle the challenges that would eventually come his way. Rather than having his incarcerated years become dead time, Malcolm X used them to invest in himself and his growth. We all face dead time in our lives, whether from soul-sucking jobs, illness, or a financial catastrophe, or even sitting in traffic. It's how we respond to these times that will make all the difference in our future. Many great ideas have been forged from the inspiration that difficult circumstances provided, all because the sufferer was willing to dig within themselves for the courage to change their reality. It's easy to let dead time consume our productivity. Most people in prison seek out distractions to dull the reality of their situation, but few have the courage to work to change their lives, to grow themselves, to learn more about themselves and the world. But because Malcolm X allowed it to, his time in prison made all the difference in his life. See the undesirable periods of your life as an opportunity to become better, and you will find your dead time to be far more beneficial than you ever could have imagined. Big idea number 8. Draw the line. Quote, "He who will do anything to avoid failure will almost certainly Do something worthy of failure." Unquote. When something just is not working out, it's important to know your limits of how far you're willing to go. The imminent downfall of a floundering business often brings out the irrationality in CEOs and leaders, causing them to run the company into the ground or even to commit illegal crimes. When caught up in the frenzy of their business, they forget to take a step back and to evaluate if they're acting as the person they want to be. All of us take risks, all of us mess up, but only a few of us are able to set careful limits to minimize the damage we can cause. Our ego brings out the animal fear within us, making us fight desperately for something we're only making worse. Learning when to say enough is a crucial step in mastering your ego. Steve Jobs was run by his ego as much as any man, but when he was fired from his own company, he channeled his ego and the rage that came with it and ended up starting a new one. He didn't let his anger at a bad situation get the best of him, and instead managed to prove his worth so much that he later ended up getting rehired by Apple. As we reflect upon our own lives, it's important that we learn our limits. Learn your limits. Know how far you're willing to go, and never, ever sacrifice your principles for success. Because is that really success? Sacrificing your values, your principles, what you know is right in your heart? Don't burn the bridges around you, because you might soon also find that you end up needing them once again in the future. Closing notes. The key takeaway from Ego is the Enemy is this: ego is stolen, confidence is earned. Be willing to work hard for your accomplishments, and you are on your way to achieving success. Likewise, stay humble about your achievements and always keep the mentality that there is more to learn, there is more to grow. Humility and a strong sense of self will go farther than anything else to combat your ego and keep you grounded in reality. Actionable insights. When you are aspiring to achieve success, keep yourself grounded and remember that humility, self-awareness, and diligence are far more important than raw talent. Next, when you achieve success, be careful not to become intoxicated by it. Strive to create a system that's centered around the work you do, not you. Again, strive to create a system that's centered around the work rather than being centered around yourself. And the final actionable insight is this: failure and adversity are inevitable in life. Overcome your struggles by not letting your ego take control, but rather be flexible and be willing to trudge through every challenge that comes your way.